I've sat with dozens of founders who did everything right. They read traction, they installed EOS, they've got the right people, the right seats, the scorecards, the weekly meeting rhythm. We've got the whole system, and it's running how the system was designed to run. Looking at it 18 months later, they are still the bottleneck. The team still waits to hear from them before they take action. And here's what nobody in that world is telling them. The system didn't fail. The system did exactly what systems do. It organized everything above the waterline and didn't touch anything below it. I'm Dori Etter, and this is Below the Waterline, the leadership work no one else talks about. Today, I'm going to show you why the most sophisticated operational frameworks in the world fail at a predictable rate. Why it was never about your discipline, it was never about your team. And I'm going to share the one distinction that once you see it, changes how you look at your business permanently. So you've built something real. You are past this sort of scrappy startup stage. You've got real revenue. You've got a real team. And when you look at the numbers, you are successful. And it feels heavy. In fact, it feels heavier today than it used to. And the promise was when you install all these systems, it was going to feel lighter. It was going to feel better. And that's not what happened, right? You put all the systems in place, you put the structure there, but it still feels like everything is on you. And as it got bigger, it just feels heavier. You know, what I hear from founders is, I thought it was going to feel better than this. And I want to share with you in the next few minutes how you can make it feel better. So here's some of what you've probably tried. You have added processes. So you put more SOPs in place, you put more documentation in place, you had your team really focus on the how. And it probably did help. And it probably helped a lot for maybe a quarter. And then it slipped back a bit. So then you thought, this is about my people. So you tried hiring, right? You brought in a strong operator, the person who could finally take things off of your plate. And for a little while they did. But then somehow things started creeping back in. The decisions came back to you. And you're finding yourself back in the middle of everything with a higher head count. So you thought it must be the meetings. So you tightened the meetings, you got clearer agendas, a better cadence, you got accountability in there. And again, it produced some results, but for a season. Gradually, gravity came back to the center, and the center is you. Let me name what this actually feels like day to day, because this is the part that founders rarely say out loud. So decisions stall the moment you're not available. You go away for a few days and you come back, and it's as if everything's just been waiting for you to return. Sometimes even worse, decisions have been made and you have to undo them. You feel compelled to undo them. And nobody was blocked for information. They were just blocked by a lack of you. See, your team escalates instead of solves. They are completely capable of handling things, and yet they bring it to you. And you have actually come to expect it, right? You build your day around it. You plan about how you're going to be available so that things can be finished. And that was not the promise of the system you put in place. Right? The promise was other people are going to do their work and you're going to do the work that's yours. But you find yourself still doing things that belong to other people, to other roles, to other seats. And you do them because in the moment, and it's literally true, in the moment, it's just faster for you to do it. Unfortunately, that one sentence has cost you more than any bad hire ever has. So let me give you sort of the clearest test of all of this. This is your vacation. So you decide you're finally going to take the time off. Maybe you actually want to take time off, and maybe you're just getting pressured. So in my experience, a lot of times Founders in these situations don't want to take the time off because they know what's actually going to happen. But they've got people in their lives and they've got milestones happening in those lives that they want to go to. So you make that choice, you decide to leave the office. And day one is okay, right? You've done all the work to prep everybody ahead of time. Maybe even day two, fine. By day three, you start to get the phone calls. In fact, you've probably planned your trip around the fact that by day three or day four, you know you're going to need some time to be online. Despite the fact that you're on a vacation, you're actually still running the company. People are coming to you to weigh in on every sort of little decision. It's not just the disappointment that the people aren't doing the thing. It's just that actual knowing that you've built the company to operate this way. This is not a vacation. This is just relocating the bottleneck to a nicer view. What I want you to notice is that nobody did anything wrong, right? Your team didn't fail you. In fact, they did exactly what you've trained them to do, exactly what the company has been designed for them to do. And that is to wait for you. The founder is doing somewhere in the few $1,000,000 range. They're sharp, they're respected, they've built a great team. They bring in an operating system, they run it by the book, and they do everything that they're told to do. And again, 18 months later, they sit next to me and they are almost embarrassed to say, I've done all of it, and yet I'm still the person. What did I do wrong? And the answer is they did nothing wrong. Okay. You did nothing wrong. You did the visible work perfectly. And that's exactly why it's so frustrating and so confusing, because you have been told that the problem is usually one of three things. Either one, it's your people. So you don't have the right team. And I'll admit, in some cases, there can be some team challenges, but you know the good people on your team and you trust them, and still somehow the decisions still end up with you. The truth of the matter is it's not a talent problem. Now, the second suggestion is probably your implementation. You just didn't run the system tight enough. But you know that you did. You know that you were disciplined about it, and it still didn't produce the results that it promised. Maybe what you've been told is you just need to work harder. If you stuck with it longer, if you put more hours in, then you would have the freedom you need. And that is the part of the trap, right? It's mind-boggling to me that people can tell you that you can get more freedom if you'll just put more controls in and be more controlling about how people operate in the system. So it's not your people, it's not the implementation, and it's not you. So then what is it? The reframe. Here is actually the whole episode here in 2 sentences. You don't have a systems problem. You have an alignment problem, because those two things live in entirely different locations. So let me show you the 2 locations that these things live in. And I want you to picture an iceberg. Most of what you can see of a business is what sits above the waterline. It's the top of the iceberg. It's the structure, it's the accountability chart, it's who owns what, it's all of those systems. And you measure things, you have a meeting rhythm, it's the vision, it's on the wall, it's all visible, it's all teachable. You can actually draw it onto a whiteboard. In fact, I draw it onto dozens of whiteboards every year. And this is where the operating systems live, right? This is where EOS lives, where Gazelles lives, where Scalable lives. And I want to be really clear about something. These systems work. right? EOS is genuinely good at structuring and organizing the above the waterline elements. The accountability chart is a great tool, right? A meeting rhythm is critical to long-term sustainable success. So if you have installed it, it in fact did bring order to the chaos that was once above the waterline in your business. And you should keep it. Below the waterline is the part that it's much harder to put on a whiteboard. It's much harder to put on a whiteboard. And that is you. That's your identity. It's the belief about how things have to be done. It's your relationship to control. It's the quiet rules that you have been operating with since the day you started your business. In fact, it's also a little bit of the beliefs and the identity of the team members around you, your leadership team, because they are all operating in alignment with the founder's belief system. So I'm going to give you one of these sort of unspoken rules that I see often working below the waterline. And that's really why all those things that you've tried never stuck, right? It cleanly explains the pattern. So let's just imagine you added the structure above the waterline, but the belief below the waterline was still running. So the structure said that decision belongs to the team. But below the waterline, you have an internal belief that says it won't be done right unless I check on it. And your belief will win every time. So the structure didn't fail. It just got overruled by something that was never designed to touch. So let me make that concrete, because this is the moment it starts to click. Okay. You put a team member in charge of something, real ownership on paper. It's their call now. And then they make the call. But it's not exactly the call that you would have made. So you step in just this once, just to adjust it. I mean, that's reasonable, right? Except your team is watching. And what they learn is that in that moment is not that you've had a better idea. What they learn is that any decisions they make aren't final. So they are now on the back of their heels going, should I make that decision? Everything that comes to them, they start to question whether it's the call that you would have made, rather than if it's the call that they would have made. So they're going to bring it to you first. They're going to ask you questions. Sometimes they're couched questions rather than direct questions, but you sense it, you can feel it. People are not making choices. And now you're back in the middle of it and you're frustrated that they just won't own it. But the truth is that the structure told them that they own it, but the behavior told them they don't. The accountability chart said one thing, your belief said another. And by the way, your people will always believe your behavior over an accountability chart. That's the engine underneath this whole pattern of implementing, sliding back, implementing, sliding back, implementing, sliding back. And here's the second belief that drives it, because it's rarely just a single belief. It's a pattern of beliefs underneath the waterline that create the experience that you're having in your business. Another really strong belief is no one cares about this the way I do. And this one even feels like a virtue. But sit with it, and what you realize it does is that if no one cares about it the way you do, then no one can be trusted to carry it the way you do. You can never actually hand it over. You have to hold on to it, and you are now, by definition, the ceiling for what can get done. See, that belief doesn't actually protect the company. even though you think it does. It actually guarantees that the company can never outgrow you. And again, you don't have this written. In fact, it might even be something that is only in the back of your mind and you don't want to bring to your forefront. But what it is a belief that lives below the waterline. So let me give you another way to see what's happening below the waterline. And I call it GPS versus compass leadership. So what does a GPS do? A GPS actually gives you turn by turn directions. You turn left here, go 400 feet, turn right here, go 3 miles, right? It is very precise, and you're absolutely completely dependent on it from one move to the next. So the second the GPS goes out, you're lost because you've never learned the territory. You're just following instructions. Now, if you tie that into a business, you can see how that is the kind of organization that a lot of operating systems are accidentally building. There is this need for tight SOPs. There's this structure that says, I'm going to do what I'm told to do next. Every person is waiting for the next instruction. And by the way, in founder-led organizations, until you overcome this, you are the GPS because it feels like you're in control, but really what you are is on a leash. You're on a leash that you can't leave, because if you do, the entire organization stops moving forward and waits for the next direction. So that is why I talk about compass leadership. And if you think about a compass, it doesn't tell you every turn. A compass tells you which way is true north. And then it trusts that the person who's holding the compass can navigate to that direction. So a compass-led organization is full of people who know where the company is going and can make their own turns to get there. They can see when they need to tack the boat or move in a subtly different direction in order to achieve the objective. They learn to use judgment. They own outcomes. Right? They don't need you in the passenger seat telling them every mile which direction to turn. Now, the shift from a GPS to a compass organization, it's not a systems upgrade, right? It's not something you can install. It's actually the shift that happens below the waterline. It's the shift in who you are inside your company and what you believe your team is capable of carrying. I want to say something carefully here because this is a point where a lot of founders, or you may even start feeling a little bit of defensiveness. And when I say that the constraint is below the waterline, sort of in your identity, in your beliefs, in your behaviors, it can sound like I'm saying you are a problem or you are the problem, like it's a character flaw, right? It's something you're not cut out for. And that is not what I'm saying, okay? It's the beliefs that are holding you back are the exact beliefs that built the company. You touched it, you made sure it was done right, is the reason why your company got built in the first place, is where that early work was so great. The caring that you put into it is the reason why you outworked all these other people when what you had mostly was a dream. That's how you got your company to where it is. So these beliefs are not mistakes and they're not wrong. They are just expired. You've outgrown these. And what was an asset at the start, at a certain point in your journey, actually becomes your ceiling. So the work below the waterline is not about fixing something that's broken in you. It's about updating your operating beliefs that already did their job so that the next version of your company can be built on the next version of you. So it's not blame. It's actually, this is the most respectful work I know how to do. Now, I'm going to talk about this briefly. I'm not going to describe it a whole lot because our next episode, we're going to dig into this. But what I'm describing, this being stuck inside the daily operations, when your business actually needs you somewhere else, it has a name. It's the first stage of what I call the founder alignment arc, and that stage is operator alignment, right? And by the way, the business needed you in operator alignment, but now it needs something different. And we're going to go deep into what that looks like next week. How do you move from one place to another in the founder alignment arc? For today, just notice that that feeling of being needed in that way that was so critical in the beginning has now started to cost you. So, again, let me put this methodology on the table. The work of designing both zones at once, structure above the waterline and the identity below it, so that the two finally agree with each other, is what I call alignment architecture. And it is the whole practice. Architecting the alignment between who you are and who the business needs you to become, and the systems that make that shift real and permanent. Here's what I want you to hold about EOS inside all of this, because people always ask. EOS is not the enemy of this work. In fact, EOS is the foundation that this work stands on. Right? The structure above the waterline is necessary, whether it's EOS, whether it's gazelles, whether it's scalable. That structure above the waterline is necessary. It's just not sufficient. See, the bottleneck was never the system. The bottleneck was the identity of the founder, that below the waterline work. So you fix the zone the system can't reach, and then the system that you've already started to build starts to produce the results that you were promised. So that's the distinction. Above the waterline, below the waterline, structure and identity. And once you see your business in two zones instead of one, you can stop asking, what system do I need to do now? And you can start asking a much better question, which is, which zone is my constraint actually in? So here's what I want you to take away from this episode, an opportunity for you to take on this week. And it is just one thing. It's not going to cost you anything. I want you to run a count. So every single time a decision lands on your desk this week, before you answer it, before you go into solving mode, just ask yourself this one question. Is this above the waterline or below it? So, meaning, is this decision landing with me because the structure, the proper structure I've built, actually routes that decision to me? Is it a decision that's in my accountability, that's at my right level? Is it genuinely my seat and my call? Am I the only one who can decide this? That's an above the waterline answer, okay? But if you ask that question and you say, is it landing to me because it's something that it's like I've pulled it here. Like if I'm just going to do it because I want to make sure. It's here because I need to check on it. It's here because I need to do it faster. What is that? Because what's like a quiet rule that says that it won't be right unless you touch it, right? Is it because you're questioning someone else's decision? That is a below the waterline answer. And just make a note, right? You can either get a little sticky pad and make a tick mark on it. You could use your phone, just 2 columns. And all I want you to do this week is just count it, right? That's the discipline of this exercise, not to try to change it. Don't delegate it. Don't decide, I'm not going to do that. Don't have any big discussions. Not this week. This week, you need to witness it, because you really can't change a pattern if you can't see it. Like if you just move right into fixing it, then you're just reacting to something, and we're losing the opportunity to understand what's actually at the source under the waterline, which is where the work really needs to be done. So we need to get the pattern visible enough to be able to address it so that it's living outside instead of just inside. Because awareness comes before architecture all the time. So keep it simple. Make a note, 2 columns above the waterline, below the waterline, just make a tally mark. And what you may find is what a lot of founders who have done this find at the end of a week. They find that the below the waterline side has a lot more tick marks than they thought they were going to have. And it's where all of these decisions came to them because not because they are the only one in the business who can make that decision, but because we've got a pattern happening, because the team has learned that there is an unspoken rule that you have the final say. I do want to say that if you heard yourself in any of this today, if you are a founder who did everything right and somehow you've still ended up at the center of everything, I want you to know you're not behind. You are not broken, right? I am 100% sure that you have been doing great work in this zone, in the zone above the waterline. And there's now an opportunity for you to begin to work below the waterline and get the answers that you're looking for. So I built something to help you find out which zone your real constraint is in. It is, I call it the Waterline Check. It's a set of short questions. Take you a few minutes to do it. And you will be able to discover where in above and below the waterline you actually have a constraint. So is it in your structure where we can like design around it? Or is it below the waterline where we need to do some real belief change work and some identity work? And you'll be able to find that link in the description. And if you're the kind of person who wants to talk through what you find, or you'd like to have a conversation about how any of this lands for your business, you can also find a way to book a conversation with me on the other side of that assessment. Because you were never the problem. You are never the problem. You don't have a system problem. You have an alignment problem. And the good news, because you were never the problem. You don't have a systems problem. What you have is an alignment problem. And the good news about an alignment problem is that alignment can be engineered. So I'm Dori Etter. This is Below the Waterline, and I'll see you next week.